And I might not be able to play Chime and Yu-Gi-Oh, but I got two guys on the desk that I know I could beat any day of the week. We got Joshi and Rafa back as we're preparing for our last series of the day. I'm not even going to give you a chance to respond to that one. TSM versus Dignitas. But before that, we of course have our updated Samsung Fast 5 where we catch up on all the stats throughout the last couple of weeks and which players are leading in certain key categories. I always love seeing how this develops over an entire split because, of course, it's never just like you get a number and then it stands forever, unless your name is Team Luke from last year. But usually throughout the split, they will develop. So Joshi, I'm going to give it to you first. From our Samsung SSD Fast 5, what's the most impressive stat that you have seen so far in this split?
Right now, it has to be the fact that Cloud9 have not just one member on the on the time to level 6, but two members who are fastest time to level 6. Can be still edging them out a little bit, but the way that Malice has been playing, I would not be surprised if he was able to overtake that relatively quickly. And at the same time, if you look at supports, how tight that race currently is. Less than a second between Breezy and Sword.
They're tied as well for Breezy and Rhino.
They are. It's crazy to me, though, because enchanters are running rampant, and usually enchanters, especially in pro play, can hit below that 8-minute mark relatively easily. So that one I'm expecting to change. I think that one is probably the easiest mark for any player, any support players looking out there to try and go for. But either way, that is the update of our current Samsung SSD Fast 5. Now, gentlemen, let's talk about the final series of the day. TSM Academy versus Dignitas Academy. Now, Josh, I'm going to pass it to you first to lead us in for TSM. Again, one of the teams lower in the standings. They were tied with FlyQuest Academy coming into the day with 2 wins, and now FlyQuest have another win. So TSM, pressure's on.
They're definitely needing to look for some opportunities to bring it up, and I feel like this might be one of the ways that they can do it. Going up against the members of Dignitas, who I know Mark is very excited to talk about, but it is definitely a position where I feel like Viper and Hyper might be able to find some opportunities to exploit the top side of the map and really put Viper far enough ahead. And I know, for anybody who's watching, we say this almost every single time TSM comes on, and that's because it's always true. It just hasn't happened a whole lot quite yet. But if you bear with us and have a little bit of faith, I promise you, Viper Hyper are going to figure it out soon.
So the attention's always on the top side of the map for TSM Academy, which surprises me because Instinct and Urson have been having such a strong split as well. But Rafa,
they're also good.
They're also good. Rafa, let's talk about Dignitas Academy, their opposition on the Rift today. I mean, Joshi's already hyped you up enough. Why are you so excited about this Dignitas Academy squad?
Because all of you tried to put them at 10th place on the Academy power rankings before we got in here, and they're popping off, and they look incredible. And my boy XU is looking absolutely magnificent on most of these games. It's not a win every single time for Dignitas. They don't have a perfect record, but when XU gets things like the Lee Sin, oh baby, he is rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Rafa, after he does one content piece with Dignitas Academy, of course, is now using his soundboard to get excited about them on the broadcast.
True. I mean, before we allow it to pop off too hard there, Mark, what did you put Dignitas at?
9th.
There we go. That's what I needed to hear, Joshi. We want to highlight specifically.
In my heart, they're number 1. Okay. Let's relax.
All right.
Fair enough. But let's look at how these teams are performing. Not at like a team macro-wise, but key players that we want to highlight as the engines of their teams. You already mentioned XU, Rafa. So talk to me about what exactly XU brings to Dignitas Academy, and then Joshi, I'll have you intro in Instinct and why we're excited about the prospects of this young player in North America.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's for you. Yeah.
So for XU, he's come from a collegiate background, right? And I don't know if you guys follow the Proving Grounds podcast, but recently in an episode this past week, he was talking about how he kind of made a Hail Mary for esports, right? Because he was kind of he was playing in collegiate over in UC Berkeley, and then towards the end, I want to say towards the end of 2019 or before 2020, he was like, you know what, it has to be kind of this esports life or collegiate. It can't be both, right? And so he dropped out of school and he just pursued and just went full time on esports and trying to hit I think he hit top 25 of the Challenger ladder. And then when he dropped his announcement looking for team, instantly got picked up by Cloud9 and then made his debut on the Cloud9 amateur roster. And through that journey, he's now here on Dignitas Academy.
And has had a very impressive, explosive debut, even playing in lock-in for a couple of games. But I'm hearing the pick and ban is ready, so I'm going to pass it over to the two of you while Joshi can chat a little bit about Instinct and what we think about TSM. So, for the final series of the game, or the day, rather, gentlemen, take it away.
So yeah, let's talk about Instinct a little bit. Instinct was a player that first came to our attention in 2020 as a player named Asilian when he was playing for Horizon Esports and later Mirage Esports when he was only 15 years old. And since then, he very quickly moved his way over to 100 Thieves Next, where he name changed to Instinct, became much more well-known, and has started to build up a reputation for himself as an incredibly consistent AD carry throughout the years. I remember the first time I ever heard his name was when Prussian, an analyst for, I believe is it CLG right now? I think he's still in CLG, where he was able to have an opportunity to go through and take a look at all of Asilian's gameplay at the time and show, yeah, this guy, he's very young, but he's got a ton of potential to start building his way up through the ranks and really understands his positioning during team fights, and has really displayed itself so far during TSM games.
And Instinct has been, this isn't the first time where the spring split started off on a roster and they haven't had a great record, but he has always been one of the shining kind of beacons for a squad and always looked good despite even their losses, because the spring split for 100 Thieves Next didn't turn out so hot either. But Instinct and Busio were constantly keeping them in games that they didn't belong to be in with how disastrous the top side of the map had been. And it's kind of been somewhat of the same for the side of TSM, although Viper has always also been another consistent factor. It's just TSM haven't always been able to translate that advantage through Viper in all their games. Now, first pick has already come out. Aphelios locked in. No Jinx available to trade. So I wonder if Instinct will go for the standard counter pick that we've seen a lot in the Jhin, or if he'll bring out something different.
So lots of options available to him. Brief side note on the Zeri bans. According to GOL, which is not the most updated thing in the world, but at least has games through this morning, 19 bans for Zeri and only 2 picks where it has 100% win rate in top lane and 0% win rate as the AD carry. So we'll have to keep our eye out more on this champion, but it is going to be the Xin Zhao, as we were talking about, along with the Karma. This is the speed up, the super zooms that Chime was talking about that says, yeah, you mostly just have to say, my Karma E, my Mantra E is up. I'm going to send you forward. Let's get this fight started, and we'll see if Yurson and Hyper can coordinate that a little bit better. This is also a shout out to XU's girlfriend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her name's Katarina.
Cool.
Or at least Kat. I'm not sure if it's Katarina. Yeah,
good job, every time. And just showing some love to the homegirl. I thought it was because early in a content piece that Dignitas did with Academy, it was revealed that Darkwings' favorite champion is Katarina. So I thought they were like, oh, we're about to pick this champion for Darkwings, but it's going to be a Victor instead. Maybe it's a, double meaning there.
Maybe someday. Maybe someday. You can always threaten it, but very standard composition coming out from Dignitas, right? Everybody's very happy to just pick strong champions for themselves, and TSM looking to do a very similar thing. The big thing that they're going to have to see is what are they going to be trying to play up against this Victor, because Victor is such a strong champion that can kind of tag all comers. There's nothing that Victor has particularly bad matchups for, at least that is popular in the meta. There are plenty of champions that are less common that can really put Victor in a world of hurt, but as Ezreal Karma comes through to go up against the Aphelios Thresh, it's definitely a much safer style coming in for Instinct than what we have seen a lot of the time, because he is typically somebody who is able to have a little bit of a stronger laning phase, but they don't want to tangle with Spawn and JJ.
This will allow your son maybe some freedom as long as Instinct can safely farm back. I mean, he's no stranger to this. He picked up a lot of wins on Ezreal back on his days with Mirage Esports, as that was a team who had the likes of Tony Top in there on their side of the map, and with their jungler at the time. Oh my goodness, why am I blanking? I know him by his first name, Clement, but what the heck? Please help me out, Josh.
Well, we do have the internet. Yami?
Hayami. Oh my gosh, I don't know why the name was escaping me. But with Hayami, Robbie Bob, and Tony Top, that was a team that focused heavily on the top side of the map. So a lot of the times Instinct was either playing Ashe or playing Ezreal. Weak side, you know, low ecom, low attention for the side of the map. So Instinct, no stranger to this champion, can still put out massive numbers. Poppy also being another ban against XU, trying to limit down his champion pool of possible junglers he can look to in answer of Xin Zhao.
Yeah, these two junglers are, I believe, the only North American junglers, or at least Academy junglers, who have brought out Poppy thus far, and it definitely provides a lot of tools to both get fights started and prevent your opponents from coming in at all. So I really like this ban targeted towards XU, and the question is going to be, what is he going to dig down and actually pull out? Because a lot of the primary meta junglers, there's actually been a lot of bans towards junglers this game. Diana, Lee Sin, Poppy, and Jarvan all really starting to pinch towards XU's champion pool. And what is it? Nidalee, Graves? Are those the other two that you tend to look at for this guy?
That's in his champ pool. I mean, Graves is definitely his favorite champ, but we have seen Graves more in the top lane these days rather than in the jungle. Just looking at options, I mean, if XU, I know he wants to play something that allows him to be aggressive or at least be a damage threat, right? So Graves would be something. I don't know if I would want to play Nidalee into this. You don't really have any setup for Nidalee Spears this game. Okay.
The bear.
It's the bear.
The bear coming through. And the question is, I imagine this is probably going to be XU, but it could also be played up in the top lane at the same time. The Akali was picked up for TSM, and I really like it because it is flexible. You can choose to send it into the Victor, though it's not the most exciting matchup in the world, or you can give it to Viper up in the top lane. And just giving both of these solo laners the opportunity to pick which one of these lanes they want to go to with this pick is really freeing because you're not locked down and you just have a strong champion on your team.
With the Gwen lock-in. Now, no, we're not going to get spicy. I've seen some... no way.
Talking about the tweet.
I've seen some Gwen jungle picks. Whoa!
Okay.
All right. This is a signature pick for Viper.
All right, we're sitting
Unfortunately,
up. We're sitting
his brother beat him to the punch for bringing out the first North American Riven game as General Sniper brought it out in Game 2 of their finals against Golden Guardians Academy over on the Unified Grand Prix Open Qualifiers. But oh boy, if you know the history of Viper, I mean, this is why he became a high elo player in the first place. This was his baby. This was his bread and butter, the main champion, and now we get to see it in Academy.
And it's kind of crazy, like, how long he's been willing to pull it out for. I typically think of him as playing a lot of marksman these days and a lot of other carry-style champions, but Riven is not something that you typically see being played in the top lane. Viper is one of the few specialists still around, and it makes a lot more sense why they're betting the Poppy now as well, because, like, against Xin Zhao, Poppy is not bad. Against Riven, Poppy is crazy. There's not a whole lot that Riven can really do about it, and just having that champion on board makes it so much more difficult for Viper to participate, and this is a matchup where you know he's played it quite a bit.
And check this out, because knowing that Viper is going to take aggressive summoner spells, which ends up being Flash Ignite, Eclipse changing over to Ghost Exhaust. No teleports for either of these top laners. It will only be for the mid laners and Takeover and Dark Wings, but this top lane, now an extremely volatile spot. We've seen Gwen matchups into other laners like Renekton, where as soon as you hit level 6, it's incredibly Gwen favored. The needlework just shreds through Renekton, even through Dominus. I don't know what that's like against a Riven, because when Riven gets level 6, she gets Blade of the Exile, she gets extra attack damage, which empowers all of her abilities, and then she gets an Execute through Wind Slash on the second cast. XU and Hyper have to pay extremely close attention to the top side, because it is volatile.
Oh yeah, we will see what they are able to do in order to pick this up. It is very much a matchup where you are going to be in a spot where if you are wrong about how much damage you do, or if your opponent outplays you, you suddenly get rolled over. Because once one of these champions suddenly has advantage, in some ways they do a lot of similar things. They jump on you and they do a lot of damage. And they are both fairly mobile. They both have tools to stick on you, and the exhaust will be mitigating a lot of the burst that's going to be coming out from Viper. So I'm expecting to see a lot of play coming out between these two guys and a crazy amount of skill expression.
XU starting on the top side, whereas Hyper also starting on the top side. So we're not going to be seeing, at least if both junglers opt in for a full clear or some type of 3-camp clear that takes the other buff on the other side of the map, they will not be able to help Eclipse or Viper respectively around the 3-minute mark, unless they do some crazy pathing.
Well, we've seen all kinds of crazy pathing already, and Hyper, I mean, with the red buff, can just come straight top lane if he chooses to do so, but Hyper showing up towards the top side. There is not a lot of information on where Hyper is going to be starting. He could be starting on the opposite side of the map, and Eclipse has this really large window now where he needs to be very careful of an opportunity for Hyper to just come in towards the top side. And I feel like that's part of why XU is also going for this clear onto the Gromp, because he doesn't want to be anywhere where he can't react to Hyper.
Just in case. Meanwhile, JJ and Spawn getting a little scrappy with Yurson. Just a quick death sentence and auto attack forward. XU now off of these wolves. He's slightly ahead of Hyper in terms of the camp clear, and he will be crossing over. So for the next couple minutes, XU won't be able to aid Eclipse, but we got to pause. We'll be seeing how we can resolve it as quickly as possible and try to communicate what is the technical issue. But for the time being, I mean, normally this allows us to set up more information about these players, but I just want to see the top lane match up so badly.
Yeah, I also like, you know, you don't get to see what happens in the chat, but sometimes we do, and so they're just calling out Juanito, and JT just responds, Riven, :O.
Well, I think they were teammates at one point, both back on FlyQuest when JJ was playing in the LCS, because that was around the time Viper had made his, I don't think it was his LCS debut, but he was on that FlyQuest roster around the same time. So
yeah,
teammates just reminiscing on old memories and old bonds. As the nice thing about Academy, for the most part, a lot of these players, even, you know, when playing against each other, are friends outside of the game.
Yeah, you know, a lot of these people know each other, and it makes these games even more fun to play in. However, as we pay attention to this, you have to note that Viper's level 1 is definitely way better than Eclipse's level 1, because the ability to interrupt your opponent's auto attacks and choose whether or not you take the fight is even more important than the increased damage you get on the autos. And Gwen has a pretty crazy level 1 as well, but you're seeing Eclipse forced underneath the turret while the rest of the map is also pressed in. The only place where TSM doesn't have a ton of priority to play with is in the mid lane, and that's mostly just because Akali's level 1 is pretty awful, right? It takes you more than 100 of your 200 energy to throw out 1 Q, and it takes a couple seconds to recharge to even have a second spell at all.
Spawn and JJ are pushed up against, or by TSM, Instinct, and Yurson. And XU was waiting just to see if they overextended, but it's not normal for Karma to just flash forward aggressively, and Yurson will be able to spot out XU, but he's on the wrong side of the tracks. This stun will be coming through. Is there enough damage to force Yurson to flash over the wall? But the Empowered Tether going to give him a little bit of HP back, and he doesn't have to burn any summoner spells.
Impressive coming out from Yurson. Not worried about the pressure coming out from the rest of Dignitas, and we'll see if XU is going to be able to find something a little bit more impactful, because they did lose out on the first crab, but again, in season 2022, crabs less important. They're just tasty to grab for themselves, and Hyper will be resetting. But one of the important things to know is because Hyper chose to clear from his red side to his blue side, the Krugs and Raptors are going to be spawning a little bit faster, so that will effectively give him a small golden experience.
Nice death sentence into Flay. Ignite comes out. Yurson chunk to sub 200, 300 HP. Not quite 200. His Instinct and Yurson now, they're the ones being forced under tower and having to farm despite these turret shots, making things a little bit more difficult. Takeover, chunk to 300 HP, and XU is in the wings on the top side of this Fog of Shadow. Takeover gonna try to pop the Twilight Shroud and dodge out on it. Oh, the thumbs up. Still has Flash of Veil. Doesn't even need it. Wow. Pure backflip is all it takes.
Great patience coming in from Takeover. Knows there's not a whole lot that his opponents can do as long as he remains in stealth. But with
that sentence once again.
Heal. Okay, we're good. With heal, heal committed down here, and XU now showing up in the bottom lane and the mid lane. I'm a little bit surprised that neither jungler is paying attention towards his top side whatsoever. Viper slowly eking out a small advantage, but XU a little bit more concerned with helping out the rest of his team and using the priority that Spawn and JJ are providing him to pick up this first
I wonder if Viper and Eclipse, just before the game started, Yeah, they just like, hey, we're going to have an honorable 1v1. It's going to all be about skill. No jungle interference whatsoever. No one's going to come dive. No one's going to come gank. We're just going to play this lane out and see who the better opponent is. Unfortunately, I don't believe that would be true ever because you want to win. And even if it's seen as dishonorable, you will do whatever it takes to win, even if it includes bringing a friend.
Yeah. I think we would have done it, though. You know, if somebody asks, it's like, hey, let's just have a 1v1. It's like, okay. Here we go. No junglers. But XU, he's going to come back towards the top side of his map and realize, like, most of my top side is completely gone. And your son.
That's pretty clever.
Oh, he waits.
That's pretty clever from XU. By using the sweeper, and he doesn't. I don't think he showed himself on the tri-bush vision. He knows the sweeper would have detected a Gromp if it was still there, but because it's gone and he knows it's on timer, Hyper was in the vicinity. But now that he has JJ, they can safely walk up to this bush and have a numbers advantage guaranteed.
Okay.
And now they're able to clear out the jungle.
JJ still isn't spotted. Okay, now he's spotted. They know exactly where he is now, but that was fascinating. XU, I've called out a number of times where he's able to use these small timing windows in order to make ganks happen where people don't expect him to be in a spot because somebody had just walked through there. Unfortunately, XU this time just doesn't die. He's not able to find anything for himself, but it's something that he has remarkably done with incredible consistency. And this time, not able to find a whole lot, but that's a dangerous
Exhaust
spot.
comes out. Viper might be in a difficult spot. Needlework coming through. Eclipse trying to run him down as fast as he can. Viper, whoa! Even the flash is not enough, and Eclipse just wins the 1v1.
That's pretty crazy, right? As soon as he went in and took that turret shot, Eclipse was like, oh, this guy is mine. And Viper just ends up going down, and worse than that, he's going to be losing this entire wave of experience. So Eclipse coming in with this 1v1, going to have a huge opportunity to start snowballing himself in this top side. And I don't know if Dignitas were expecting that kind of favor to come their way.
Yeah, it wasn't planned. You know, XU would have been giving at least Eclipse maybe a gank if there was some type of strategy around that, but it was just the vision or the eye from Eclipse seeing, oh man, I have lethal here, and XU taking advantage of the pressure that he got is able to steal not one but two camps away from TSM, and Hyper can't do anything about it.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of payback, right, from what Hyper was doing to XU in the first place. But now, Hyper going to be trying to hit this top lane turret with Eclipse currently showing in the mid lane. Viper has free roam in the top side, but even so, with so many members of Dignitas already hanging out and instinct on the opposite side of the map, I don't think TSM can continue contesting.
Rift Herald at 4.7 KHP. JJ maintaining aggro at the bit, so XU can start whittling it down, and TSM, they're going to give it up.
There you go. I mean, TSM very slightly behind at this point, right? Dignitas, with that solo kill top lane, is going to be making them up a lot for their
Oh no, and they know Viper doesn't have flash available. But thankfully, the mobility of Riven, he has cooldowns available to get out alive.
Yep. So something, Mark, that we haven't talked about a whole lot just quite yet. We haven't really looked at the mid lane other than that one gank that XU had, and Takeover was able to survive, but Takeover has been doing more than surviving. He's thriving right now. He's actually up in CS as a callie into Victor just because he's been able to play this so incredibly well, and this is something that we know Takeover to do. Takeover on all the teams that he's played in so far has had pretty decent laning phases. He consistently comes into the next part of the game with a small lead, but sometimes, as we saw in yesterday's series, he's not quite sure how to extend that and ends up kind of getting caught around a lot of objectives, and we'll see what kind of adaptations he's made to prevent that from happening again.
Next Dragon will be coming up in a minute. Will there be an opportunity to make up for that and show the progress over this time in Academy, or, you know what, no jinx, no caster cursing. Yeah. 50 seconds now on the second Dragon of the game. It won't be an Ocean or an Infernal Soul. Praying that it's not Cloud Soul. I want to see not Chemtech Soul, Hextech. I want portals, man. Hyper might be in a bad spot, but now they have numbers, and they're going to force out XU's ultimate ability, meaning he will not have that available for a turret dive for the next minute.
But I'm not really expecting a turret dive to come in anywhere at this point in the game, right? It is just a matter of trying to play around this dragon. You could try and dive instinct, but I mean, he's still playing the Ezreal. He's got the flash. He's got the heal. He's got the arcane shift. Lots of tools to try and get away. They're going to be dropping the Rift Herald down there, so that will get a couple of plates given over to Spawn and XU.
Spawn does have the right gun set up, potentially, to take a lot. But just like I said, that white gun runs out. No longer available to just shred through the remaining plates. There's still 2.5 minutes, or 3.5 minutes for him to find more plates. Wait, whoa, they found Yurson. It's the flash away. But it's an instant flash for JJ as well, as he was being routed off. Takeover goes in, but he's only sub 300 HP. He doesn't want the smoke there.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought, Takeover. That was not the way into that fight whatsoever, and Dignitas are quick to punish. XU doesn't have the ultimate just quite yet, but he does have a flash. He wants to start something, doesn't look for it. And something that we haven't touched on just quite yet, Mark, is Yurson. He's playing this Karma. I don't think I've ever seen him play this champion before. He has been playing engaged supports the entire time. Leona not, Rakan, Rel. No enchanters so far this spring, and you know, he's doing a-okay. He's not necessarily having a huge opportunity to create a ton of space, but even just this means that he's going to be very impactful later on in this game just because of the way his champion works.
One Lulu game is the only enchanter that he has played, but you're right on everything else. And he made a name for himself in his academy debut on the things like Nautilus, right? And the most infamous one in this exact org matchup against this same bot lane. Spawn catching him out with that Nautilus hook in the middle of Dark Passage, and it netted a huge advantage in that game last summer. This time around, it's Dignitas that are on the forefront, the ones that are pushing them back, and Stormbreaker is available this time around once again for XU. Doesn't even need it. Hey, Yurson's pretty squishy on the enchanter. The life of not being on a tank is pretty draining when you're being engaged and dove under tower.
We'll see if TSM can find anything on the other side. Instead, Hyper going to announce his presence, that he is here, and there's not a lot of priority for him to play with Dignitas. Already has Eclipse here.
And Eclipse, just his presence alone alongside Darkwings might be enough to push him back, but now that Viper's coming in for reinforcements, Hyper's going to look for the engage. Eclipse popping Ghost in response. Give him enough movement speed to be able to navigate outside of the quadrant. But it's enough time for XU to come back and claim some of his jungle. And you know what? XU says, you know what? Thanks for defending my jungle, bro, so you can take my Gromp as a compensation.
That's how it works, right? Yeah. Just take the Gromp. You're going to be A-okay. It looks like Eclipse just needed that last bit of money in order to pick up these item completions. Once the boots, once the Rift Maker, in order to be able to continue going for these fights up against Viper. But, you know, I kind of feel a little bit vindicated of what I was saying earlier. And then Twitch chat's going to, you know, disagree. But
hold up. Crescent Guard pops. JJ, no flash.
Bye.
A little too far forward. TSM able to punish and capitalize.
Yeah. But I was going to say, like, Viper, he's pretty normally able to build this kind of CS lead, kind of regardless of what his matchup is. Unfortunately, this game, he also has, like, the random death added on top of it. But the fact that he's consistently building up this kind of CS lead means that he's very close to even. They both hit their mythics at about the same time, and the extra Ionians that Viper has accrued mean that he might still be stronger than Eclipse when they actually go for fights. You don't believe me?
Yeah. Well, we'll see how the game pans out. You know, I'm usually the one that's wrong anyway. So, please don't be mad that I'm not agreeing with you outright. Eclipse and Viper finding uh-oh, Viper. He's popping the Blade of the Exile. He's mad. He's bad, boy. Exhaust comes out. No, but the horrible 1v1 has been dishonored, and Viper even through. No way. Oh, it was so close. But Eclipse and XU will still prevail.
I told you, Viper's stronger. There just happens to be a bear there. No honorable 1v1, and now TSM are going to be trying to find something on the opposite side of the map because XU commits himself to the opposite side. But that, regardless of whether or not he's stronger, that is definitely no longer true. Eclipse going to be farming up a Storm, going to be pushing it in and denying a ton of EXP towards the side of TSM once again. And here we go. XU, again, being very, very selfless this time around, gives over an opportunity for, I believe, Darkwing to pick up the blue buff that they were able to take away from Hyper.
Still 3-1 across the board. 2,000 in advantage for Dignitas. And Viper denied.
Oh, he doesn't.
Yeah.
I just praised you, XU. Why gotta be so rude?
I appreciate that. I'm just saying, though, that seeing the power that Viper is able to bring out in the 1v1 when they're almost on his terms, and it goes to show that, I mean, he knows this champion in and out. And probably taken by surprise off of that first blood from Eclipse. But Viper's not one to back down after a subpar early game. If we know anything from the prior series yesterday, TSM Viper was one of the people that found a miraculous flank that almost brought TSM back in their game. And now TSM almost getting caught out here, forcing out JJ's box. The Rift Herald does not make a crash. Eclipse popping on over. Viper is going to be able to get out thanks to the Broken Wings. Third cast over the wall. And now TSM trying to start up this Dragon.
Okay, Takeover potentially looking for a bit of a flank, but I think he's just putting himself a little bit offside. It's really hard for him to get in through this vision, through this choke point, and XU taking control.
Gravity Zone is now down, but it's too late for TSM to be able to enact. Third Dragon goes over to Dignitas. Eclipse on the flank side, getting interrupted by Viper. Can he make his way through? Has to retreat back into the pit. The rest of TSM now turning on to the other side of Dignitas. Can they make their way through the front line? But they cannot. Viper has run out of steam. Hyper is running away. Takeover is sub 300 HP. Cannot participate in the fight, and not even a true shot barrage will find any stragglers.
24.
Dignitas prevail.
Yeah, JJ, we saw 24, but it was even lower than that when the True Shot Barrage actually hits him. So, Dignitas, the great thing about this is their ability to keep spawn safe even in a very uncomfortable situation, rewarding them with 2 objectives, the Cloud Dragon and the mid lane turret, opening up the map so that Dignitas can come back later and start to invade the jungle of TSM.
Now 3,000 gold deficit. It's slowly getting wider and wider for the side of TSM. We take a look back at this replay, and once the Gravity Zone comes down, theoretically, Takeover should be able to get in, but Dignitas doing so well to play front to back.
I mean, Takeover just doesn't have an item, and Spawn, once he's out, I mean, red, white, don't fight, is so much damage available to him that Takeover has to use his ultimate in order to survive. And Hyper, I mean, Viper just suddenly finds himself in a spot where he doesn't have any friends to play with. It's just a position where TSM are kind of getting hurt by the fact that they are behind and they don't have the damage to finish off any of these members. Ezreal isn't fully online yet. Takeover just now gets his first item, and because the structures are going in favor of Dignitas and the extra standing gold that they have, the situation only gets worse based on the individual plays that Dignitas.
It's hard to find these successful fights when you're just down in stats. You're not able to rely on just positioning to be able to find you advantages. You're going to have to dig deep a little bit more and find more creative flanks. But if it's back-to-back, then the team that has better stats will always prevail, right? And for Dignitas, and that remains to be the case, is now they're 1 Dragon away from Soul Point in 18 minutes.
That's a very early Dragon Soul, and the Cloud buff, or the Cloud Soul, will give the lot of tools over to members like XU, who use that movement speed so well and so crucial to their ability to land their crowd control. So TSM now looking for opportunities to turn on, and instead of going forward and trying to dive, mostly is going to be trying to play towards instinct, I think. Unless they can find a flank, right? If they can find their way to spawn and blow them up quickly, that is one of their win conditions. But other than that, it's mostly going to be instinct, trying to create a lot of space, show that positioning that Prussian identified years ago to actually be able to win some of these team fights. It's just so hard when you have so many damage tools available to Dignitas.
Especially on someone like Spawn, who has dipped into the lethality build for Aphelios, Gale Force, and Collector. And so for someone like Takeover and Viper, they don't really have any durability stats, just a little bit of HP from their mythic items, but nothing will stop a lethality of Aphelios from just shredding your HP if you don't choose your assassination moments correctly. And if you get on top, cool, but if they're not CC locked, or you're just not getting routed off, Viper's like, bro, when can I have my 1v1, please, for the love of God? He's gonna try his best, and he brings JJ almost down to lethal. Ignite, okay, he trades 1 for 1, and TSM will be able to take a turret on the other side of the map.
But it's going to be traded on the far side, right? I think Eclipse is going to be able to pick up this entire structure, and multiple people are starting to move over from TSM, but I think it's a little bit too late, as Eclipse is going to be hammering away, and next wave shows up, and yeah, Eclipse taking an entire bottom lane turret after that. You know, again, Eclipse not fighting fair, bringing multiple members to the fight, but the result is still the same. Viper's dead, Eclipse gets a turret.
Just things for Dignitas. Slow but steady, small wins across the board, right? And as this game goes further and further beyond, Gwen becomes more terrifying, Aphelios becomes more terrifying, Victor, there's enough to be said. So there's no reason for Dignitas to necessarily, once they find a lead, they don't have to be super volatile with the plays that they're making, right? They can just take small steps and be okay with it.
Yeah. Okay, so TSM, I mean, they need to figure out what their line in the sand is here. They don't control the choke point. They
Hyper almost getting rooted by Everfrost, but it's just going to be the stun from XU that locks him down. Buys a lot of time with that Gore Drinker active, but not enough for the rest of TSM to capitalize for a re-engagement. And 15 seconds to go. This surely will be Cloud Soul for Dignitas.
Dignitas as they move in. Again, I talk a lot about choke points, Mark. I say how important they are to understand where you need to fight, how you need to do it, and what the geography you can have in order to make it go in your favor. And Dignitas, they just bullied their way through. XU very happy to just like walk through the choke point and just take over control of the fight. And because TSM only had 4 members there to try and defend it, it was not something they could try and do. And I feel like TSM at this point are kind of resigning themselves to giving over this first game. Dignitas have so far outplayed them in almost every metric. They've gotten more gold, they've gotten more turrets, and the only thing that they really need to do is make sure that they can shore up some of their early laning phase, because they built up a couple of small CS deficits, but Dignitas are, at this point, playing much more cohesively than TSM.
And TSM, if you're them, you know, how much are they really in this game, or how much are they just thinking about the next game and thinking, okay, where did we go wrong? Because I don't see many avenues for TSM to come back into this game. You're really depending on Viper and Takeover to find great flanks where Spawn is already down summoner spells or has no defensive ways of being able to prevent these 2 assassin-like characters from just blowing him and Darkwings up. That's the only way you win a fight. Otherwise, it has to be just, you know, really, really disastrous plays from Dignitas that allows TSM to come back.
Well, we saw that earlier. Didn't happen. Hasn't happened at all so far today. Everybody's been able to play out their second half of the games cleanly, and Hyper has to be very careful because this jungle does not belong to TSM.
He has flash. Is he going to use it? Crescent Guard doesn't even get popped until the very end, and he gets smacked down by the Stormbreaker of XU. Viper now on the flank with his instinct. They found Spawn. They forced both of his summoner spells. He's down about half HP. Viper going in. He finds Spawn. Take over now. He's going to come in with his own damage on the perfect execution. Can he find another one on Darkwings? Oh, lo and behold it. Did we caster curse them, or did we caster buff them? TSM will find both of the carries for Dignitas. And now it's Eclipse. Can he win this 1v2 against Viper and Takeover? They're sub half of their HP right now, and Eclipse can run them down. Oh so my goodness, Takeover going back in. Gets a lot of damage down with the Shuriken backflip. Viper looking for a third cast of Broken Wings. Eclipse might be on the run. Oh my god, Joshi, they have done it. They pick up an ace at 24 minutes.
Absolutely crazy fight coming through. TSM are firing back, but they're still down a large amount of gold. Their understanding of how to play this choke point was super pivotal. Even though Hyper, let's be honest, kind of ran it here, it gives an opportunity for both Takeover and Viper to come in from different angles, creating a spot where Spawn didn't have enough frontliners anywhere in order to keep him alive. And as Viper just goes in by himself, the 4-man knockup brings it back. That's the Riven 1 trick we like to see, bringing an opportunity and showing that this champion is never out of the game.
Just take a moment to kind of really soak that in. Now, it is...
Soaking it.
It's still... You know, like you said, they're still at a goal deficit. Oh, no, wait. Viper has found Darkwings. He doesn't have any members available. Gravity Zone is available, but Viper has enough cooldown reduction. Should be able to get one more cast of Broken Wings down. Windslash comes out. He has assassinated Darkwings, and now Dignitas are going to try to rout him off. Viper, can he actually get out? Needlework is available. Wild Dash is just as a low of cooldown as his Valor Dash is. But the objective bounty from the standing turrets will allow TSM to slowly make up for the gold deficit.
They're only 2,000 gold down at this point. They almost pick up the mid lane turret as well. Viper putting the team on his back. I really like the way that he's starting to play around Vision, looking for weird places, because you know, just as we praised XU for using vision timing so incredibly well, Viper found his way behind the entirety of Dignitas who were standing around the Baron pit because they had a couple of control wards. But that's going to be harder to do, right? Once Dignitas recognize that Viper is starting to go for these crazy flanks, they're going to be much more on guard. They're going to be focused on making sure that those are warded up and not make the same kind of plays this time around. So Darkwings now on 2 items doesn't have the stopwatch available, but you know he's going to be going over for the Zonias to make sure that kind of play doesn't happen again.
Having a little bit of protection, an extra layer of survivability once it's completed. Now note here, Spawn doesn't have both of his summoner spells. Has to be careful about where he steps forward. TSM bringing numbers to the mid lane, wanting to knock out this outer mid turret. It would be another objective bounty. Instinct. If he was someone like Caitlyn, maybe he could just stand outside and take a turret shot without being in danger of getting punished by Dignitas, but bringing 4 members now, pushing in this mid wave. Viper.
Viper.
You can tell how badly they want the objective bounty gold. They are willing to just throw a little bit of their HP or sacrifice a bit of it just to take it down. And Dignitas are holding on to it with their dear lives.
There's a lot of wave clear on the side of Dignitas, especially as Darkwings, right? He just throws out 1 laser, clears an entire wave, but TSM, they feel like they are in control right now, and with the Elder Dragon spawning in 50 seconds, we'll see whether or not they can find a better fight around this upcoming dragon. They ceded too much control last time and allowed Dignitas to walk in. I don't think TSM are going to make the same mistake.
You know, Dignitas might have movement speed and are super fast with this Cloud Soul, but TSM, if they win the fight around the Elder Dragon, that movement speed is not going to do diddly squat against a team that can just execute you past a certain threshold. And TSM are now wrapping around Dignitas. Viper is gonna get spotted on this ward, but there's a deep flank from Takeover. Can he find it here? JJ, super low. Viper, they all pincer in right on the spawn. He's trying to dance around as fast as he can. Stop watching through the wind slash as well, but both of the assassins from TSM are right on top, and there's nothing that Dignitas can do to save their back line. Darkwing is able to trade one back onto Instinct, but it's Viper and Takeover that you have to worry about, and they are carrying this fight all the way to the bitter end, and Darkwings has to run as fast as he can. Viper is coming for your life, buddy, and there are already pings going towards the Elder Dragon. No one from Dignitas other than Darkwings can answer, and as long as Viper can maintain vision of Darkwings, he cannot interrupt, he cannot do a damn thing about it. They've successfully pincered him down. Another ace for TSM.
Oh my god, Viper is looking so good in the second half of this game, man. He is constantly able to find these ways into the fight. He, Hyper, and Takeover all at the same time, able to jump on and make sure Spawn was not able to survive. So TSM now in firm control of this game. They're even going to have an opportunity to wait long enough for Instinct and Hyper to come back alive for the Elder buff to come to their hand. So TSM absolutely turned this game around. No objective boundaries left, but watch how TSM have Hyper and Viper finally do the thing that we've always been looking for. And it's just Hyper running in, scattering the fight, and Viper coming in, and it's just, there's no way for Spawn to get away from both Riven and Akali. It's just not possible. 2 angry women coming to collect, and Viper and Hyper just clean this up. Look at it's just crazy sustain coming through from Viper's Riven too.
Don't piss off. Don't piss them off, man.
This is what you get for not taking those fair 1v1s earlier.
Yeah.
Viper pissed.
No, Viper is giving Dignitas a piece of his mind. Yes, there's 1 solo kill from Eclipse, but that is all being eclipsed right now in retrospect, as TSM are the ones with the Elder Dragon buff on their side, burning down this Baron, and suddenly the tables have turned. I was about to say turns of table. I blame Kangas. He's been saying it too many times in my ear. But TSM, what the heck, man?
We'll see what they can do. They only have about 1:20 left on this Elder Dragon, and they have even longer on the Baron. So these buffs can give an opportunity for TSM to win, but they are kind of reliant on having these flank angles to come in. They need to find a way to get to Spawn that's not just running directly at him, because he has the Gale Force, he has the JJ to keep him alive, and if they're just going to be running directly for them, Dignitas should be able to kite that out, especially with the extra movement speed from the Cloud Dragon.
Viper Pushing in. Oh, XU pops the NOS button from the Turbo Chem tank. He's
Zoom.
also super fast thanks to Dead Man's played in the Cloud Soul, but Viper also has enough mobility on his side. Elder Dragon buff still available. The rest of Dignitas. After such a successful early game, everything has fallen apart in the last 10 minutes of the game somehow for Dignitas. They are trying to hold on to the remains of their base, but it's so hard to engage onto a team with both Baron and Elder buff on their side. They're just doing the best they can to withstand the onslaught of this siege.
Yeah, with 15 seconds left on the Elder Dragon, it looks like that is all TSM will be able to pick up. I mean, they have a minute and a half still left on their Baron, so they have a lot more time. Takeover, fancying something with Eclipse, but instead is going to be pushing him away as another turret ends up going down. Elder Dragon is gone. The TSM have already cracked the inhibitor turret, and look to be another inhibitor.
And Eclipse was fancying himself a little bit of a flank after seeing Takeover and Viper performing ones beautifully around the Baron a few minutes ago. The reward, while not going down for Dignitas, is losing these two inhibitors for TSM.
Two inhibitors is a lot, right? They will still be down by the time both the Elder and the Baron spawn once again. And without the teleport coming out for Eclipse, he doesn't have the ability to go clear all of these minions on the other side of the map while the rest of his team look for a contest. But we're also starting to see some of the issues with having low engage, right? XU, his only way of getting into a fight is going for a flank or running directly at them. Eclipse has a very similar thing, and without a flash, it's a lot harder to really just like jump in on the enemy team. So TSM should be very secure. They start to control vision in the bottom side of the map because that's the only place left for them to find structures. And if anybody in Dignitas walks too far forward, they're going to get blown to shreds.
And it's so difficult when you are low on engage tools against a team that is incredibly mobile. Whether it's due to the solo laners having multiple abilities that allow them to dip, dash, and get out of fights easily, or just having the ability of Karma to Mantra Inspire and give everyone a huge movement speed boost to zoom away. Dignitas, like and you saw in that Baron fight, the inability to collapse on a flank quickly before the rest of the flanks pincered in was the cause of Dignitas' downfall. There's no Baron buff, no Elder buff available right now, so this siege won't be as disastrous for Dignitas. It won't lead to as much success for TSM, but they're just buying time and keeping Dignitas in the comfort of their base, not allowing them to establish any vision control in preparation for the upcoming objectives.
Yeah, notice how much mana Darkwing is having to expend just clearing these waves. It means that he won't have a whole lot for the upcoming fight, nor is he able to clear out this bottom lane wave. But Spawn, as long as he has the flamethrower, should be good enough. And you notice that the bottom lane structure hasn't taken hardly any damage at all. So TSM, once again, they back away. They want to make sure they have wards, and they have littered the southern quadrant of the jungle with their own vision, and it makes it very, very difficult for Dignitas to walk up. Even though you don't see any members of TSM, you can guess that they backed, but you don't know that they have. They could just be waiting in a bush.
Death bushes are so scary for Dignitas. I mean, XU can face check, but then depending on who they're face checking, they can just dip around and look to assassinate Spawn, or at least force summoner spells right before this upcoming fight around the Elder Dragon. They're grouping up right now, able to reclaim some resources and get some vision control back, but it is still a tall task. 30 seconds to go, and Dignitas are just nowhere near to be able to set up.
Dignitas not going to be able to come through. The Ravenous Hydra completed there from Instinct. You see it doing a lot of damage across the team, and TSM were not able to use control of these choke points earlier to their advantage, but that doesn't mean that they won't be able to do it this time. They have more members, and Takeover is in a spot where he can start to threaten to end the game. There are super minions in the top lane that are stacking up. There's a large wave in the bottom lane. Takeover.
And Viper's on a flank. There's two control wards, so we'll spot him out. So Dignitas immediately hugging the top side of this mid wave. But the longer they are on Dignitas' side of the field, the longer these minions are going to pour in through. There's a top wave impending, heralding straight for the base of Dignitas. And Dignitas, they cannot just wait around and let this stall out. They have to go back and defend the base from crumbling. Nexus turrets will fall for this. Eclipse finds a flank onto Instinct. Exhaust comes out. He's not able to engage quite yet. Hyper down below sub 50% HP. Takeover finding the shuriken backflip. XU is able to cancel it out with the Stormbreaker over the wall.
Oh no, JJ
is able to flash on out. but someone's got to recall. Someone's got to go answer the base because it's crashing onto the Nexus turrets right now. TSM take this moment to try and stop them from recalling. Viper losing a lot of HP, sub 50 HP, shut down by Spawn. But Dignitas still have to answer the base. TSM might have lost out on top laner, but they are preventing Dignitas from being able to recall right now, and Takeover has unleashed teleport. If TSM can keep Dignitas here or get a numbers advantage, they can teleport and go back into the end of the game. They're looking at Dignitas. They're trying to see if they can steal the Elder Dragon. XU will be able to secure it. Takeover, can he get out? But he's critical. Eclipse, he can wild dash over the wall. Can someone answer the base? Dark Wings answers it. He'll be able to save the game, and Dignitas will hold on by a sliver of life.
Where's the teleport? Oh god, Takeover teleports back to his own base. The Elder Dragon picked up by Dignitas. Crazy fight coming up from both sides, with Dignitas now firmly in control for this upcoming Baron. They only lost one Nexus turret, but that still means that there is an opportunity for some kind of factor. Oh my gosh, the inhibitor barely alive. The other one is respawning everything. Turning out just right now for Dignitas. And now as they come in to take control, I believe all 5 members have the Elder. XU is here first, and Hyper will still be dead.
They can burn down this Baron. This is still a tall task, though, because we have seen how powerful the solo laners can be for Viper and and Takeover, respectively. Dignitas holding on, and it's weird to say that Dignitas are making a comeback because it was TSM that made a comeback and put themselves in a huge lead in the first place. But man, this game was soundly in Dignitas' control. Then it went over to TSM, and now we're just neck and neck.
Yeah, absolutely crazy between these two teams. We have another minute left for Dignitas to have this Elder Dragon and Eclipse. He might just ult this.
Oh, just going to Hyper. They have Elder Dragon. They can burst him down. Hyper's gone. That's a numbers advantage. And there's no teleports available from Takeover, so he can't even threaten him to go for a backdoor. Victor, or Dark Wings, I should say, is the only one that is defending against Viper. Viper wants to see if he can base race against this.
JJ rebases.
There's actually a recall coming in from JJ. They respect the ability to Viper to win the 1v1 against Dark Wings. So it's 3-on-3, but they still have Elder Dragon. Look at the Spawn! Flashing forward! Moonlight Vigil will be enough! It is! Spawn! In the moment that they needed! Will be able to take out Takeover, and now it's only down to Viper and Instinct and Yurson to defend! But it's not going to be enough. Dignitas, in their darkest hour, will prevail despite TSM trying to come back and close out Game 1.
How many times is this going to happen, Mark? The number of times when Aphelios gale forces forward to find the kill on somebody just barely. I feel like we've seen this 4 or 5 times just this week alone, and Spawn just adding his name to that list of people who are able to win the game with an aggressive Aphelios play. Great stuff coming out from Dignitas, but man, was that game back and forth. It was so tense for such a long period, but Dignitas able to build the lead, then hold, and then come back once again. Crazy play coming out from both sides.
I don't want to hear any about this game being sleeper or not being as exciting about any of the other series. I'm telling everyone to go back and watch at least this Game 1. We'll see how Game 2 unfolds, but this was a demonstration of Dignitas having a very controlled early game, a demonstration of TSM capitalizing on one positioning mistake from Dignitas around that choke point and executing the responsibilities of 2 assassins in this Riven and Akali, and then Dignitas, another demonstration of having strong mental fortitude and being able to hold out and stall out in that Elder Dragon. TLDR, banger game. Make sure to go back and watch it. If you're just tuning in and you just caught the result, you need to go and take some time this weekend and see it. When we come back, we'll be seeing the conclusion of this series between TSM Academy and Dignitas Academy.